Now, let's look at this looming food crisis in the nation vis-a-vis the inflation figure. For further analysis, joining us in the studio is Akin Alabi. He is Visionaire Corporate Farmers International. Thank you for joining us on Business Breakfast.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, now looking at these figures, some alarming figures here, especially the jump in the inflation rate for food, which rose by 19.5% year-on-year in May 2022, representing a 1.13% points uptick compared to 18.37% recorded in the previous month.
Exactly.
And then you see a 2.78 decline compared to the corresponding period of 2021. Help us make sense of all these figures.
Now, let me give you a shocker that it's going to keep rising. Yeah, it's going to keep rising.
You're joining the World Bank because we have seen them as prophets of doom. They've always told us.
It's not about prophets of doom, but it's going to keep rising. And the funniest thing is that the food we are currently feeding on now were a harvest of basically 2021. So 2022, we just started cultivation. So first cycle harvest probably will end this month or next month, you know. Rain started in March, so people started planting in March, April, May, June, harvest started. So first cycle will just round up this month. We're going to second cycle of harvest, of cultivation, third cycle and all that. So what we are feeding on now is basically harvest of last year. So the question is, current right now, and with the Russian-Ukraine war, I'm telling you that the food crisis is going to keep increasing until there are proper strategies that we can put in place to help us navigate through that process. Unless.
So apparently, from what you're saying, what we're doing right now is cultivation.
What we're doing right now is still cultivation.
Cultivation. So what are the chances of getting bountiful harvest? Because of course the cultivating or cultivation season usually indicates what will happen at harvest.
But the question now is that now we have two crises at hand. Number one, we have the war crisis. Then we have insecurity. Those are two major crises. Reason because let me pick one after the other. Now, in terms of grain production, partially of our grain were imported into the country from these major countries, you know, across the world. Russia, especially. You know, especially. And Nigeria again is facing a whole lot in terms of insecurity. Reason because most of our farmers have migrated from their farm domiciled areas down to other regions. So it means that they've abandoned their farmlands. I have places like in Jigawa, Kebbi, Niger,
Borno, where farmers were killed. Over 60 farmers were killed just last month.
They've left their domiciled farm areas into another either IDP camp or another region to start life totally. And that's why you see the population in Lagos keep increasing by the day. So the question is, what's happening to our farmers? Our farmers are no more farming. Now, those are two major issues that's going to cause food crisis. I'm telling you, within the next couple of months or till next year, it's going to hit us so bad that government needs to intervene ASAP. But again, it's also very bad that government is not even intervening to the extent we expect them to intervene because
are they intervening in the first place? Are they intervening?
Well, this government has tried in terms of Buhari government has tried in terms of food security and all that. But this time around, someone with election period, everybody now focus on election. Who's going to represent my constituency? Who's going to be the next president? Who's going to be the next governor?
Vote buying and all.
That's the focus right now. So that, again, is another factor. Insecurity, Ukraine and Russia war, then election. Focus has diverted.
Let's look at this rise in the food index, which was said to have been caused by rise in the prices of bread, cereals, food products, potatoes, yam, and other tubers, wine, fish, meat, and oils.
It's everything.
What would you ascribe? So you are saying it's even all the food items.
Oh, everything.
So not even just the specific items.
No. It's everything. This is how it trickles down. You see, the producer produces the raw materials. Let me use grain, for example, regular maize, for example. Now, a maize farmer harvests his maize, then take it down to the market, Dawano market in Kaduna, for example. Take down to Dawano market. Now, the merchants or the FMCGs goes to Dawano market, buy in lump sum, okay? Now, when they buy in lump sums, who are the off-takers? Probably the Guinness or the other producers that consume all those things into another value chain entirely. You know, that is one piece of it. The other piece of it in terms of food is let's use feed millers. That is for poultry production or any kind of feed at all. Now, when you take a grain that is you are buying at 10 naira, which initially we buy at let's say 6 naira or 5 naira. You're not buying at 10 naira. Now you're not taking it to your production circle, probably for feed, to recycle, produce, process, and everything. Everything ends up to about 15 naira. Now your bird that has to feed on it, that will produce the egg. Now when you're selling that egg, you have to factor in all those costs. Automatically, you can't sell your egg, which you're selling probably at 100 naira. You have to increase to like 150. So that's how it affects. Now eggs now is used by confectionaries, cakes.
Wow. So it's a cycle.
It's a cycle. So it starts from the producer. So if the producer is affected, it affects other value chains.
But the fact that we still import many of these food products, isn't that a major factor? Because if you look at some figures that were released recently by Audu Ogbe, saying that Nigeria still imports about 90% of its food items. Isn't that a problem?
Well, our level of importation is still very high. As last year, we're importing about $900 in terms of importation on food. And the other bad part of it is that there's even no food to import at this point in time. Reason because the war has affected most import countries. So it is even hard for even over them, either in EU or Asia, to even see food for themselves to feed on. Because of those factors. And now, what can we do to help increase local production? I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves. How can we help increase local production?
But if you look at some of the things we import, for instance, French fries, Nigerians have been reported to consume 62.8 billion naira worth of French fries yearly.
Oh, yes.
And you're wondering, we have this yam, we have the potatoes, we have all of the ingredients that you need to make this French fries.
We have everything. But again, you see, one thing about the Nigerian spirit.
Is it that penchant for foreign goods, or is it that we're not able to boost local production?
That is the question. We are not boosting local production. We are not encouraging local production. And that is why dollar keep increasing by the day. Because Nigerian is more of the fear of importing than producing locally. And that is why I also speak to, look, we need to also encourage agro-industrialization, whereby when farmers are farming, it's easy to now take those commodities into another special processing zone, and that is now transformed into a beautiful commodity. Example is our chocolate. You know, Nigeria in time past were the biggest in terms of producing chocolates, raw materials. Now today we are not even in that cycle anymore. This same chocolate, this same cocoa beans. This same cocoa beans from Africa is now taken to EU, now processing chocolates and bring back to us in dollars for us to buy. So that is all the things that
just the same way we have crude oil, but we still pay for petrol.
It's as bad as that. We are not encouraging local production.
You know, there's also, when you're talking about cocoa, the fact that coffee is the second largest, traded commodity in the world, apart from crude oil. Shouldn't Nigeria be leveraging on that aspect? The fact that we have the raw materials.
Why not? Why not? It still boils down to local production. Government needs to put more money, more effort, more energy in agro-industrialization. That will help farmers, once they're harvesting, it's easier for them to take those products into the market, into special zones, for them to reprocess and produce into other commodities. It's as simple as that. It's not hard, but it's just getting it right. It's as simple as that.
You know, the African Development Bank president, that's Akinwumi Adesina, said that with 65% of the global arable land and cutting-edge technologies, that we cannot afford to go to the rest of the world, bowl in hands, begging for food. And then he mentioned the fact that we need to mechanize agriculture and provide seedling for farmers. Looking at all of these resources that we have, the land, the people who are willing to work, the capital, human capital, why are we not looking in this direction? I know President Muhammad Buhari's administration came into power saying that they were going to diversify into agriculture. Why aren't we seeing a lot of that?
Now, I'm going to break that challenge into three perspectives. The federal issue, the state issue, and the local issue. Now, number one, what is the role of federal government in terms of boosting agro-industrialization or agro-processing? Now, what's the level of states contribution into agriculture? What's the level of local governments contributing to agriculture? I'll take it one by one. Federal has a lot to do in terms of providing what we call incentives for farmers. Now, over the years, we've been having farmers complain about funds, complain about inputs, seedlings to help them do better.
But we've seen this administration talk about Anchor Borrowers Program, talk about trader money, farmer money, and all of that.
Yeah, we have those things in place. But the question again is, are they working? You know, we've seen CBN, roll out several interventions funds. You know, but again, we need to find a proper roadmap where those things will end at a particular point. I say, yes, these are the products of it. This is the produce. This is the turnout of these entire programs. It needs to be visible enough for it to have adverse effects in the economy. Once we can't feel that, then we can't regard that as being successful enough. That's the challenge. Then for state government, state needs to encourage state farmers. And that's why I always give it to Lagos State government. I've been able to support their local farmers in all the value chain, from fishery to crop farmers to livestock farmers. You know, the government of Lagos State has tried its own capacity. Lagos has the smallest land. You know, but they've been able to inject some level of interventions into commercial farming for their farmers. At least we've been there, we know them, and we've been seeing results.
Despite the limitation of land.
Yes, we've been seeing results, you know, because I'm very close to the commissioner and I've seen the work that they are doing in terms of Lagos Agric, you know, and that again has so much effect in terms of food production, because state has a role to play critically, because they're the one that are closer to the farmer. Because the federal will just roll out policies, will roll out funds via the CBN, not to the state government, but the state government have to now design a strategy to pull our farmers together within the state and say, look, this is the roadmap for the state. This is what we need to also do. This is how we need to carry it along so that we can have sufficiency in food production.
Okay, so the local government.
Now for the local government. Now the local government is also the more closer person to the farmers. Basically, because when state release funds, it should go to locals. Now when locals now say, okay, this is particular farmers within Koshofe local government, particular farmers within Aige local government, I can say, farmers in Aige, come around. This is what government is providing for you. This is what government is providing for us within this community. So it's more like from the broader level of closeness to a stater level of closeness, now a local level, because local government are supposed to provide tractors, machineries for their local farmers, because they know where the farmers are farming in their local governments or in their local areas. So it's a three-cycle work process. From
I remember speaking with a farmer from the southwestern part of the country, saying that the Anchor Borrowers program is functional, but it is more functional in the northern part of the country, because the state governors are seeing to it that the farmers get the dividend or whatever is coming from the federal government, but it's not the same in the southwestern part of the country.
That is where state role comes into play. And you know, you can't take it away from the northern part of the country. They have the highest number of farmers today in Nigeria. That's where the farm domiciled areas are. Take it to Borno, take it to Jigawa, Kebbi, Nasarawa, Katsina, Kaduna, Kebbi. You know, we've been to several parts of the northern region, and we have a couple of farms, rice farms in Kebbi and all that. Now, for us in southern part of the country, it's all about our attitude towards farming. Now, a regular southerner will not see himself as a farmer, or will not be proud to call himself a farmer. Reason because they feel that because of the, maybe I'll call it the way we see agriculture.
I thought that had changed.
It's changing, but it hasn't changed. But a northerner is proud to call himself a farmer, and they're proud to take it anywhere, and that is why they're getting more dividends than the southern part of the country. Just like, for example, we have the new generational farmers, the young agripreneurs that are coming up now. They are beginning to change their orientation. I say, look, agriculture can be in any diverse form. The value chain is endless. You don't have to produce or till the ground before you call yourself a farmer. There are other value chains you can get yourself involved in. A man that moves commodity via his vehicle from Nasarawa down to Lagos, that moves tomatoes from Nasarawa down to Lagos, is involved in the value chain. He's also a farmer, because if he doesn't move those tomatoes from Nasarawa to Lagos, there won't be tomatoes for us in Mile 12 to buy. So everybody is involved in the entire value chain.
Well, let's still stay on the AFDB president, Adesina. He noted that different countries are already rising to the occasion, especially in tackling the issue with climate change, saying that, for instance, Ethiopia is planning to start exporting wheat soon. Of course, we know that Russia, there's an embargo because of the Russia-Ukraine war, and so wheat importation has reduced. But it's now saying that Ethiopia is planning to begin to export wheat as its production volume exceeds local consumption need. But what is Nigeria bringing to the table? Ethiopia is just about, say, 15 million people in population.
You see, again, agriculture as it is, agribusiness, it has some elements of politics.
150 million,
Agriculture, agribusiness has some level of politics in it. And that is why I always clamor on what I call agricultural diversification, meaning that each state should be able to understand what is their strength. For example, let's say Kaduna State, for example, strength areas is in maize production. They should focus at least 90% on maize production. Not that you want to do maize, you're doing tomatoes, you're doing this, you're doing that. What is a state known for in terms of agricultural production?
Would that limit their capacity?
It won't. It will even help more, because if, for example, I have 5 different states, and Jigawa, for example, probably is known for, Borno is known for level of wheat production. If I'm focusing 100% on wheat production in a particular state, and I'm getting 100% results on wheat production, and I'm saying that all my farmers are focused on that, it's easier for me to say, if I'm going to export to anywhere, I'm going to get maximum harvest, I'm going to get maximum production, I'm going to get maximum return on investment from that state. And for me to now export such production into other African countries, into other countries, I'm getting results, i.e. maize, i.e. sorghum, i.e. soya beans. But if you want to now have state doing different things, you can now do. For example, tea production, for example, is done in Taraba. But why are we not having efficient tea in Nigeria today? Regardless, we have tea farmers today in Nigeria from Taraba State. We still import our teas. These are the areas we need to look at.
But the current structure we run, which of course is centralized, is it going to encourage what you just said? The fact that everything still has to flow from the center and has to go to the center.
See, again, it's all about policies from the government. If government can design strategies that work differently with state governments, it's easier to grow agric using that dynamism than saying government release the policies and it won't trickle down to the root. If not, I keep saying it, if not because we have some governments, state governments today in Nigeria that have taken agric seriously, or private partners that have taken agric seriously, we won't be where we are today in agriculture. It will have been a state of comatose for us today in agriculture. But states are trying to improve state production with their farmers. And that is why, again, we also encourage private partners to come in and intervene, support states, work with states, international partners, so that they can use that to grow up or enhance production with their local farmers within that particular state. If you leave it for the central government, there's little we can do with that. There's little what we can achieve with that. Just look at what we said, Anchor Borasum is more effective in the north, but why is it not effective in the south? Reason because the strategy works more efficiently in the northern part of the country than, and don't forget, here is more of a rainforest. You have the trees, you have big trees that if you want to start cultivating, you have to start clearing, tree clearing, bush clearing, all those things. But over there, you don't have to do all those stress. The lands are there. You just clean the land and you start planting. But here, if you're going to a particular terrain to start farming, know that you have to start with bush clearing. That's the deforestation. From that time, start with the clean of the farm. So now start land preparation. You know, those processes are quite enormous. But over there, you don't have to go through that process. You just start cultivating when you have the land. The land is ready. Just ensure you prepare the land and boom, you're started. But here, you have to go through several processes in southward past before you even start. So these are the barriers.
But isn't that what mechanized farming is supposed to take care of?
But it's expensive again. Not all smaller farmers can afford mechanized farming.
But that's the reason the federal government brought up, one of the reasons they brought up the Anchor Borrowers program. So different farmers come together, form a group, and then go to the federal government to get some of these incentives to boost their production.
You make it sound as if it's that easy.
Well, that's what we see on paper.
No, you see, that's why I'm saying that there's a role state government needs to play, local government needs to play. For example, let me give you a typical example. I have 10 farmers together in a particular local government, a local area. They have a particular location to start farming. Now, it's easier for them to meet their local government authority and say, okay, we have this land in XYZ location. Help us with machinery or a bulldozer or a truck to clear the land. Now, if local government have that role to play effectively in agriculture, it will be easier for them to start operation at a point in time than from saying from a particular local government in probably one place that is not even known. Now go to federal government. That will take you 6-7 months to even get your letter. Before they even now start approving, another 3 months. Then before even now start, okay, we want to disburse fund, another like 6-7 months.
But isn't it supposed to come through the Central Bank of Nigeria?
Yeah, it is. But again, that is why I keep saying that central bank can't work in isolation. even when I disbursing funds, they don't disburse funds directly to farmers.
Yes.
It goes through the commercial bank. You understand? Yeah. All those funds go to commercial bank. And if commercial banks are saying that, sorry, based on the risks you have on your farm, we can't give you, there's nothing you can do about it. Or bank will tell you that go and bring your father's head or your mother's head before you even collect a particular fund. And don't mind you, those funds are not free funds, they are loans. And today we have bad of those alcohol borrowers funds today that's probably are in bad debt.
Bad debts.
You know, a lot of them. You know, so the question is that strategy working? It's not working. It's not working.
Well, let's look at this inflation figure, which of course rose from 16.8% recorded in April to 17.71%. And of course, that's according to the recently released report by the NBS. And also, we see the CBN's of course, the CBN had its monetary policy meeting where they increased inflation, or rather interest rate, from 11.5% to 13%. And the reason they gave for that was to fight inflationary pressures. But now we're seeing the opposite playing out. Is it that that move was not in the right direction?
You see, one thing about food is that food is very dynamic. And everybody has their own, I'll say each country has their own role to play in terms of growing their own food. And that's why I see that a policy that might work in a country A might not work in country B, basically because of the perception of people towards food in that particular country. You
know, some people have said that there was no need for the CBN to even increase the interest rate, that perhaps they were just joining the bandwagon of other nations like the UK, which increased their rates.
Exactly. You see, as I said, each country has its own peculiarity and responsiveness to its people. And that is why I always give it to East African countries. They understand food and the business of food as it works in their country, even for local production and for exports. And that is why we are not getting it right in Nigeria. And it's really a chunk on our neck that farmers, I must confess to you, this year alone, we have about 20% of farmers, even not more than 30% of farmers that are ready to sell off their farmlands. Reason because they do not have what it takes to continue farming this year.
Wow.
Because the cost of inputs has gone triple higher. The cost of seeds is expensive. The cost of human labor on the farm is expensive compared to last year. So when you factor all those things together, where do you get the money to even start farming? At the end, if you now start farming, are you so sure that if you're not putting the right irrigation together, climate change might also affect you when there's no rain? And that's an act of God. You can't blame anybody. What would you do? Nothing. So it's a risky venture that needs proper thinking, that needs proper strategy to implement, even at this time, even at this point in time. And I'm going to give a typical example again. 2020-2021, we were farming in Niger State. But because of insecurity, we couldn't go back to Niger State again because the particular area where we're farming was strictly overseized by bandits.
Wow.
And our investor was telling us that, look, if you guys go, you're on your own. I'm good. I don't have money to pay for ransom. So what do we have to do? We have to neglect or ignore the particular portion where you're farming. And there are farmers that we use there on a regular basis. We pay them on those farms, or we pay them to work for us on those farms. But today, we can't go there anymore. So automatically, the money we are paying them can't come to those farmers anymore. And those farmers, again, have migrated from that particular location to another location. So these are things that are affecting agribusiness today in Nigeria.
Apparently, those farmers also would maybe join the poverty, go beyond the poverty line, below rather, because there's a report by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization in March saying that 19.4 million people will face food insecurity across Nigeria between June and August 2022. And then they also say that food crisis would affect Nigerians in 21 states and the Federal Capital Territory, including 416,000 internally displaced persons.
Yes, so, it's beginning to affect us now, Seth. It's beginning to affect us now.
Yeah, but the internally displaced persons, these are people who are already displaced from their homes.
Yeah.
And now they're getting displaced by, you know,
by food insecurity.
Food crisis.
A couple of days ago, you saw, I don't know where you saw an article where Governor Zulum was giving food for his people in IDP camps. Those are one of the things that is affecting us. Even the food is not even available anymore. That's the issue. The food I used to buy. There's a woman I normally buy rice and turkey from. Sometimes in early March, April. A turkey was sold for 1,000 naira. I went there a couple of days back. I said, give me my same regular. She told me that the turkey is now 1,500. I had to switch to egg.
That's per kilogram?
No, just food. No, I want to buy food.
Okay.
Cooked food.
Okay.
The turkey was initially 1,000, but now I said, bro, so the turkey now is 1,500. I said, that's changed the system. I changed the money in my pocket. I have to take out more to buy what I want to buy. So that is how it affects everybody. It's going, as I said, it's going to get more worse if government don't act on time. And I said, government now is even more focused on politics than food. They are more concerned in returning back to power than food. This is because they have so much in their pocket to buy. But the locals out there, the layman out there, the common Nigeria doesn't have that again. And I don't pray that it results to something we can't even able to handle anymore. And I pray we don't get to that level. I pray we don't get to that level. But what are the steps, practical steps that can be taken so that we don't get to that level? Because as it is now, a lot of Nigerians are already crying under the biting hard economy. Oh yes. Now, what I suggest government should do at this point in time, number one, strengthen the state governments, so that the state governments can work closely with their farmers. Government can provide inputs for farmers to begin to farm. Inputs in terms of seedlings? Seedlings, chemicals, whatever it is, make it available so that farmers can go back to their farm and start farming. Even if they can't afford it or can't buy it with their own money, the government can still provide those things and help them out. Then three, government also needs to have international partnership or relationships. Well, thank God for what AFDB is doing in terms of supporting our farmers with funds. Recently, they released $1.5 billion. Well, we're not yet released, though, but at least they promised to release $1.5 billion. And they're working with federal government to ensure that those things get to the right hand. But again, how soon will that manifest itself? And would it be used for the right purpose? This is June. In a couple of days, it'll be in July. And by when you're hitting August, September, the year is gone. Harvest is closing up for the year. If you don't have a irrigation system for dry farming system of dry farming season, you understand? So those things need to be put in place. Funding, strengthen state government to work with local farmers, so that you don't overweight the federal government. So state governments can work with local farmers and provide inputs for them. With that essence, state can now work with their local government and say, look, these are the farmers in Koshofe, these are the farmers in Agege, these are the farmers in XYZ. We'll work with them so that it's easier to know where the land is, locate them, and outputs can be done easily. And even if farmers don't have money to buy, you can transact in terms of loan. When you sell those seeds to them in loan, when harvest is ready, you can buy back from them so that they can pay back their loan. Things are hard, but we need to put things in place. But federal government needs to listen, because so that it doesn't get worse. The only thing that can make a man go crazy is when there's no food. When there's no food on his table. What makes a man happy is that when there is food on his table, he's happy, he smiles, and he does his work effectively. But when there's no food, my sister, there's a problem. Well, we have to just leave it there. Thank you so much, Akin Alabi, Visionary Corporate Farmers International. Thank you for the insights on the show this morning. Thank you.